Okay, so this is my second talk in a series of 4 talks where I combine the principles of dependent origination and Brahma Viharas. So today the talk is on cultivating and fostering loving kindness. My first talk was on compassion. So today the talk is on loving kindness. So this is the structure of my talk today. I'm going to briefly introduce dependent origination and its importance in Buddhist teachings. Then I will talk about loving kindness. And I have come up with a unique formulation of loving kindness phrases. So in my talk on loving kindness, I'll also go talk about those phrases, 7 of them. Okay. And then we'll have Q&A, we'll have a break. And then after we come back, we'll have a guided meditation where I'll lead you all into loving kindness practice. And I'll repeat those 7 phrases. So that's the structure. And then, yes, anytime if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Sorry, feel free to raise your hand and I'll be happy to answer. So, dependent origination. Um, Dependent origination is one of the central teachings of Buddhism. It matters that we learn more about dependent origination. It is said that the night when Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, the night of his enlightenment, he saw the entire process of dependent origination. He saw, in the classical tradition, classical expression of dependent origination, he saw those 12 links, how how ignorance leads to suffering and how it perpetuates through many, many cycles of life and birth and rebirth and birth and rebirth. And he also saw what is called as transcendent dependent origination. How, when you break those links, any there's this chain of 12 links, any of the links that can be broken can lead to end of suffering. And so in one of his suttas, he was talking to Ananda, and he told Ananda that, Ananda, if you understand dependent origination, you understand the Dhamma. And if you understand the Dhamma, you understand dependent origination. Hello, come in. Hi, welcome. So dependent origination is the key that unlocks all Buddhist teachings. If you think that you know certain teachings very well, good for you. But if you see through the lens of dependent origination, you will see whole lot more. Whole lot more will be revealed to you. Okay, so I'm very excited about this topic and how we can use dependent origination to foster loving kindness. Okay, so what is dependent origination? It explains the interconnected and conditional nature of all phenomena. It teaches that nothing exists independently. Everything arises due to specific causes and conditions, right? So it encapsulates the cyclical process of existence, showing how suffering emerges and persists in a chain of causation. So that is the principle, so to speak, right? The interconnected and conditional nature of all phenomena. And in one sutta, in Samyutta Nikaya Sutta, which is called the analysis of dependent origination, Buddha gave a very cryptic phrase that explains dependent origination. He said, if this exists, that exists. With the arising of this, that arises. If this does not exist, that does not exist. With the cessation of this, that ceases. So it may sound very cryptic, it may sound almost like a puzzle, but when you study dependent origination, what he's saying is when you have this mass of cause and condition that arise, it'll give rise to something else. So there is no causal relationship between A and B. Buddha never said that, okay, if you do A, then B happens. If you do B, then C happens. But Buddha said that when a, a, a variety of causes and conditions come together, it is very likely it will give rise to something else. And they are all conditioning one another. Everything is made of parts. Those parts are interconnected, interacting with one another, and they're giving rise to something else. And that something else is further conditioning this original set of conditions, right? So there is no simple causal relationship between A and B. It's all about a whole mass of cause and condition creating rise to something else. So the understanding of this principle transforms how we do our practice, right? Um, so rather than trying to force certain experiences, we consciously create causes and conditions that are favorable for that condition to arise. All right. So this is where loving kindness comes in. Okay. And to further explain this dependent origination, this cause and condition, I use the metaphor of a garden. Okay. So my wife here, she loves gardening. Um, 2 years ago, we moved to our a new house, and we had a yard on the side, and that was very barren. No one wanted to take care of it, right? So my wife started to work on it. Okay. And I was helping her from time to time. I didn't understand the whole picture of what will come out, right? But I was helping her do specific tasks. So what she did was she first broke the foundation, and I might be getting the sequence wrong, so please bear with me. She broke the foundation, she dug deep, she put soil in it, she watered it, and then she put flowers like hydrangea and hibiscus. And then uh, with the grace of nature, with sunlight, with water, with fertilizer, with attention, hydrangea came out and tulips grew, right? And she kept on doing this work. And now, 2 years from now, 2 years afterwards, now we have this beautiful, lush, diverse garden that is like a place of refuge for me and her. When we need a break, we just open the side door, we just go inside and we enjoy the fruits of her hard work, right? So this is dependent origination. I was doing this, if I was doing this, I would have gone to Home Depot, I would have just gotten this plant of hydrangea, put it on the ground and watered it. And chances are that the plant might have died, right? But because Marcin looked, my wife, because she created the environment with all these causes and conditions that allowed for these plants to rise, naturally. Okay. That is a very good analogy of dependent origination. If you want to create something, right, it's okay to do it, but then also look at what else can help you create that condition. Okay. So we now come to Brahma Viharas, right? Brahma Viharas, they are like the set of four divine abodes. Uh, they are called four divine abodes. They are a set of prized mind states and heart qualities that are the endpoints of our mindfulness practice. So they are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Traditionally speaking, when we learn these practices, we go straight to the phrases, with loving kindness. So you're all familiar with loving kindness, right? You all know what loving kindness is, right? Okay. So traditionally speaking, we go straight to the phrases that, oh, may I be happy? May I be peaceful? It's, there's nothing wrong. It's great. But if we look at the causes and conditions, the state of mind that gives rise to loving kindness naturally, then we are applying the principles of dependent origination. Okay. So what um, so in this talk, I have come up with 7 phrases for loving kindness. The first 3 phases create the cause and condition for loving kindness to arise. The next 3 phrases are the classical phrase that we use for our loved ones or benefactors. Okay. And the 7th phrase rounds everything up. It rounds up by relating ourselves to the other people, the benefactor. We don't exist separately from our loved ones or benefactors, right? We are all in this together. We live in this interconnected kind of a world. Okay. Um, so, and then of course I'll describe each and every phrase, but then you will distinctly note how these phrases interact with one another. Okay. I also want to mention that this practice is highly, highly customizable. I'm just giving you one expression of creating this unified, holistic practice, but you are free to customize in any way you see fit. No two gardens are the same. You might have a garden, your neighbor might have this beautiful garden, but when you look into details, you will see that they've all tended the garden differently. They may have put in different fertilizer, they may have put in different kind of soil, different flowers, whatever it is, right? So just note that what I'm telling here is just my first attempt at creating this practice that includes dependent origination. Once you get the feel for it, you are free to customize the practice. You can change the practice, you can change the phrases to something that speaks to your heart, that sings to your heart. Okay? So keep that in mind. Now, coming back to the 4 divine abodes or the 4 Brahma Viharas, it's very important to cultivate those qualities. And I'm going to state a quote by Pema Chodron. Pema Chodron is a very well-known Buddhist nun. She has this amazing quote, and she says, "We can let the circumstances of our lives harden us so that we become increasingly resentful and afraid. Or we can let them soften us and make us more kinder and more open to what scares us." All right. So, this is the beauty of Buddha's teachings, right? This is where we convert poison and turn it into medicine. Right now, we are living in very, very uncertain times, very, very fearful times, very polarized times, not just in this country, but all over. But these principles, principles of dependent origination, principles of Brahma Viharas, etc., they allow us, they give us a choice to take in the world and not let it harden us, but rather let these experiences soften us and make our hearts more tender, more open, so that we can be more loving towards one another. So that is the power of this teaching. That's the power of Brahma Viharas. Okay. So, um, so we always have a choice in how we respond to difficulties. And by consciously choosing to soften our hearts and to stay open, we can allow our innate human kindness to emerge. And that is something that we need to realize. We should never forget this, that self compassion, self love is innate to all of us. We innately possess these qualities, though we might not be aware of it when we go about doing our day to day lives. In our day to day lives, are those qualities gets obscured by adverse experiences, and so we are more conscious of anger and jealousy and envy, resentment, etc., right? But underneath all of this, we should not forget that there is self-love and self-compassion in all of us, and these practices open them up. They open them up so that we can relate to others with the same qualities, you see, and so we can actually we can provoke other people to have access to their own qualities as well. Okay, so loving kindness, right? So what is loving kindness? um, Loving kindness is a quality of friendship. It is a quality of the heart that simply wishes well to all beings without seeking anything back. And this quality is very, very evident in children. When you see children playing, and when you see one child get hurt, all the other children will run. They'll swarm towards that person, that child who's hurt, and they'll try to help that child. You see, we so children have that quality, but then as we kind of grow older, they get obscured by life's harsh lessons, so to speak, right? So these practices allow us to uncover the qualities that we already had. Okay, so loving kindness meditation is the cultivation of a steady, unconditional sense of connection that touches all beings without exception, including ourselves. Loving kindness has great expansive power. It has no limits. These four Brahma Vihara qualities, they are also called four divine abodes. They are also called four immeasurables, because there is no depth to which we can grow these techniques within us, these qualities within us. So, so again, like I mentioned, the four qualities are loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and sympathetic joy. So my first talk in this series was about compassion. My second talk is today, that's on loving kindness. And then sometime in December, I'll give my third talk that is going to be on equanimity. Sorry, sympathetic joy. And in January, it'll be equanimity. But in all these talks, I'm going to utilize the principles of dependent origination to help cultivate these qualities and keep on growing these qualities. So like I mentioned in my example, right? Once we have our garden in the side yard, now we don't have to do a whole lot of work. We just have to open the side door, go outside and sit and enjoy. you know the same thing applies to these qualities also. So in the initial phases, yes, we have to put some conscious work, conscious effort, but once we have done that work, it'll arise spontaneously within us, and we can just bask in the wonderful um, uh, effect it has on us and on others. Okay, so loving kindness is not sentimentality, it's not conditional love. Um, it is a pure sense of kindness, of love that we have for ourselves, that we wish for others. Okay. All right. Now, are there any questions? Anything I've said so far? Are there any questions in the room or on Zoom? It's all clear as mud. Okay. All right. Thank you. Um, so, loving kindness, or rather, Brahma Vihara, all Brahma Vihara qualities, they are intensely practical. Okay. Everything that I'm going to talk about today is going to be practical. It's something that helps us practice, and the results can be verified by your own self. So Buddha had this beautiful phrase, he said, Ehi pasiko. Ehi pasiko means come and see for yourself. He didn't have to convince people that, oh, this will work. He simply said that I'm going to give you some techniques, I'm going to give you some teachings. You practice it, and you will see the results for yourself. Okay, so keep that in mind, that practicing loving kindness, practicing any of these four heart qualities it's all practical. There is some theory involved, but whatever I tell you today, you can go and practice on your own tomorrow. All right. You don't have to read any books. You don't have to watch any talks, nothing. You can just go and practice. Okay. So there's a history behind the genesis of loving kindness. When Buddha was teaching, uh, he had a lot of students, and they were all inspired to go into the jungles, deep into the jungles, and meditate. Because when you meditate, that's when you come face to face with these qualities and you can cultivate, right? But they were afraid. Those monks were afraid of wild animals. They were afraid of ghosts and spirits and stuff. And so they came to Buddha and they said that, sir, you have given us so many teachings. We would love to practice, but we are afraid. There is fear and dread in us. How do we how do we uh, eliminate that fear and dread so that we can go and practice? So that's when Buddha gave the teachings on metta. Loving kindness is also called metta in Pali. It's called Maitri in Sanskrit, right? So he gave them the phrases, okay? Just wish for yourself, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I live with ease, some classical phrases. And then he said, use these phrases for yourself and use these phrases for everybody else around you, for all living beings, including ghosts, including hungry ghosts and demons, whatever, right? And these monks said, okay. So they went there and they did this practice deeply, right? Deeply. And pretty soon, their fear melted away. They didn't have any fear. And it is said, okay, I can't prove it, it is said that those hungry ghosts and those tree spirits, they got this vibe and they delighted in the vibe. They said, oh, this is beautiful. So those monks were never harmed, not, nothing. uh, they didn't experience any adverse incidents. They were happy and this whole vibe was beautiful. And it's very easy to understand this. If we meet a person, right, and if we see that the person is exuding happiness and warmth, we are attracted to that person, right? We want to be in the company of that person, right? It's quite natural because that person has touched that innate quality that is within us, right? Conversely, if you meet someone who is bitter and angry and resentful, you sense that, right? And then you want to stay away from that person, right? So this is the same dynamic with loving kindness. The more you practice, the more it'll come out of you. You see, the more other people will sense this quality in you, and they'll be attracted to you because they'll feel safe and secure and they'll feel comfortable in being with you, right? So keep that in mind. This is a very beautiful, expansive quality of loving kindness. So traditional phrases, right? When we practice, um, excuse me, we utilize some classic phrases, but when we are free, like I said, it's very customizable. You are free to choose your own phrases that speak to you better. So there are three things that can happen, you know, one of them or, all of them. Saying those phrases. So some people, they are more conducive to speaking in words, like, may I be happy, or if you're saying something to a loved one, may you be happy. When you recite those words can generate the feeling and the emotion of loving kindness. Okay. That's how I practice, right? But then for some people, they are immediately attracted towards this sentiment, towards this feeling. So it's perfectly all right to not use the words, but just jump to the underlying emotion of friendliness, of happiness. Okay, that's fine. Um, Bhikkhu Analayo is a well-known Buddhist scholar and well-known Buddhist teacher with Bari Center for Buddhist Studies in Massachusetts. And he, very earlier on in his life, he went on a metta retreat, a retreat where the only thing you do is loving kindness. So use those phrases, may I be happy, may you be happy, whatever. He did that for a number of days and nothing happened to him. You know, it just didn't work for him. And so he was sitting outside his uh, dorm, the place where he was sleeping, right? He was sitting there and he saw these two squirrels. Two squirrels, they were actually playing with each other and they were just kind of rolling in the ground and rolling around each other. And when he saw those squirrels, he was so happy. His heart sang in delight. It was so beautiful. And that's when he realized that, wow, this is metta. You see, this is metta. So all the practices that he was doing, he couldn't feel any tangible effects. But when he saw those two squirrels jumping around, it was so beautiful to him. His heart sang in delight. And so he said that, yes, this is metta. And so, he started teaching loving kindness, but from the perspective of generating that feeling. So he didn't focus very much on the phrases, but he just focused on the internal feelings, right? Um, so, and then the third one is having an image of again, I'm sorry, coming back. The first one is phrases, right? You just say those phrases. May you be happy, may you be peaceful, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. Second is to kind of have generate those feelings of loving kindness. If you've seen something this morning that made you very, very happy, let's say you saw a small kid playing in the park, laughing loudly, right? And if that made you happy, sure, you can go with that. The third one is to use an image. All right. Let's say you want to send someone, a friend of yours, loving kindness, like may you be happy. You can have an image of your friend and you can imagine showering that phrase, showering that person with love. You know, there's a song, right? Shower the people you love with love. So that's what I'm talking about. You can just use those phrases and shower them with your love. Okay, so there are three dimensions to this practice. And when you start with the phrases. That's very easy to start. But then if you feel compelled to focus just on the emotions, fine, go for it. If you feel that you want to have an image of that person and you want to um, see that image of the person laughing and be happy and contented, go for it. Whatever whatever you sense at that moment is the right thing for you to do. So trust yourself, trust your heart. It knows what to do, and go with it. All right. So I also have to tell you that metta, it may sound romantic. Amongst the four divine abodes, metta is the most romantic, right? It's beautiful. Yeah, may you be happy, may you be peaceful. Yeah. But deep inside, there is a deep, deep purification process that is going. All right. And the way metta works is that when you say these phrases, you automatically relax. The idea is that you're not putting an effort into it. You are just doing it gently with from a place of ease and joy. And when you do these phrases, it actually calms your nervous system. What I'm trying to say is that if we practice metta, right, it'll calm our nervous system down. And what happens is the way our nervous system works is that when you calm the system down, any kind of stress, any kind of trauma that is it is holding will be released. And so when you do this metta practice, you might get a jolt, you might feel anger, you might feel resentment, you might have some memory of something that happened to you in the past. You will feel that this is not working, but that's not true. It is working because this is a purification process. So now the next thing to do is to just hold these feelings within yourself, you know with self-love, self-compassion. Not push it away, but just accept that yes, this is happening. This was something that our nervous system released, and you just need to be with it. All right. Nico Hasi, Nico Hasi is a very is a brilliant Buddhist teacher and a Buddhist scholar. He says that when you do metta, you are taking this large magnet and you are moving it around the heart. And when you do it for the first time or for the second time, whatever, sometimes shards of metal will come out and get stuck to the magnet. And by shards of metal, we mean all the adverse experiences that we've had that have hurt us in the past. It could be betrayal, it could be, um, it could be anger, it could be resentment, whatever it is, it comes out. Metta works like a magnet, it'll pull everything out. And that can be painful. That can be very, very painful. So when that happens, just hold it in as much as you can. There's a caveat, okay? There's a caveat. If it gets too much, let's say if you feel that your trauma has been re-triggered and if you have symptoms of PTSD, then my advice is please stop. Then don't do this practice. Instead, consult a trauma informed provider or trauma sensitive provider and then get that provider's guidance. Don't do this all by yourself, please. This practice can be very, very powerful. And if you come to a stage where you feel that you are not able to hold things that come out of your system, then please stop and consult someone and then continue. Okay. This happened to me a couple of years ago. I've been practicing loving kindness for quite some time. Um, One evening, I sat down and did a guided meditation with Jack Confield. I mean, the guided meditation was online. Um, and I did this practice for like maybe 25, 30 minutes. I totally connected with that practice. It was beautiful, right? Um, I was able to connect with each phrase. I was able to connect with this practice. And I was able to shower myself with loving kindness and then shower somebody else with the same kind of energy, right? It was blissful. It was blissful. I and then I went to bed. At around 3 o'clock that morning, I woke up with my heart palpitating. I had just relived a trauma from my past. I didn't even know that I was traumatized. But that whole experience came back to me. It was so strong that I jumped out of bed, and I had to kind of calm myself down. Um, because this particular trauma was hidden underneath other traumas. I didn't even consciously remember that something like this had happened to me. But when I look back, that evening when I did this practice, when my heart opened up, when my nervous system got cleansed and got calmed, that system threw out this memory of this past experience, and that destabilized my sleep. But when I woke up in the middle of the night, I had the good sense to hug myself and do some other practices, calm myself down, and then I went back to sleep. So there's a direct connection, between what I did that night, this very powerful experience I had, and what happened to me just a couple of hours afterwards. Okay. So again, this is an amazing practice, amazingly beautiful practice, but there are times when it'll have a quote unquote adverse reaction. So please be vigilant. Okay. All right. And when you're doing this practice, you will hear accounts from people that they had such an amazing experience. Their heart opened up and they were one with the universe and they were one with the birds and the animals and stuff. It can happen. Okay. But the recommendation is don't go for a gusher. Don't expect a gushing kind of an experience when you're doing this practice. When there is contraction in your heart, even if you find a little bit of space, even if a little bit of space opens up in your heart, even if you experience a momentary incident of peace and tranquility, that is beautiful. So try to get those kind of experiences in, instead of having an enlightenment kind of an experience. Um, do this step by step by step. Okay, don't expect to achieve miracles, right? um, if you manage to have some experience where you feel some tangible effect on your heart, note it, just be with it, and that is perfect. All right, so don't, again, don't set expectations so high that you'll disappoint yourself. Even little bit of tiny openings every now and then can lead to something huge. um, I want to talk about categories of people, and this applies to all the four divine abodes. The first category is our own self. We do these practices for our own self, and then we do these practices for our loved ones and benefactors, right? Benefactors are people who have helped us. They may not be living, they might have passed on. They might be deities. It could be Jesus Christ, it could be Mother Mary, it could be Buddha, right? Those are benefactors. And then you have the category of people that you dislike, people that have harmed you. And when you are kind of starting out, it's recommended that you work with someone that has irritated you, for example, right? Don't do it for someone who has really hurt you bad. You don't want to re-trigger your trauma, right? So exercise some discretion, exercise some caution when you work with someone who has hurt you, or someone uh, whom you find irritable, someone whom you find disagreeable. Okay. um, and then you do it for the neutral people. Neutral people are people that you may have known, but you may have met in person, but you don't know them well. Like, for example, if you go to a supermarket and you have this person check out your purchases, right? You might have seen their name tag, you might have spoken to them, but they're neutral to you because you don't have any relationship with them, right? um, so those are neutral people. Now, you might think that neutral people might be a very bland category, but that's not true. Neutral people are people that you have seen, you have felt their energies. And if you are expressing your loving kindness to a neutral people, you are really stretching out your qualities. You are really stretching and strengthening your innate power of loving kindness. Because from your ego perspective, there is no reason for you to invest your time. But here you are, spending your time and energy wishing for someone that you just met and just had like 2 minute interaction. You see? And the thing is, majority of people on this planet are going to be neutral to you. They're going to be neutral to me because I just know a small sliver of people around me. Vast measure of people I don't know, right? So when I do loving kindness for neutral people, I'm effectively doing this for humanity, you know. And then the last quality is all living beings. And when I say living beings, I mean humans and animals and uh, sea life, you name it. You also, if you want to include, you can include the devas, the beings like the gods in heaven, etc. Right? May all of them be happy. May all of them be peaceful. So these are the categories of people. Now, with loving kindness, it's best to start with someone that you love, because it's very easy to trigger loving kindness. You 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 know take your partner, right? And immediately that kind of opens up some things in you, right? You think about your pet, right? Your pet dog or pet cat, and that immediately opens up something in you, right? But with compassion, you start with someone who is suffering, because for compassion, suffering is the trigger point, and compassion is nothing but loving kindness. So when we are exercising loving kindness, when loving kindness meets suffering, it turns to compassion. Okay. So with compassion, you always start with someone who's suffering. And then once that energy, once that experience or quality is activated or aroused, then you use it for yourself, for benefactors, for everybody else. And the perspective is that may you be free from suffering. You see, with compassion, it's all about suffering. With sympathetic joy, you know, you can have any kind of a sequence other than yourself. Because sympathetic joy is rejoicing in the happiness and well-being of other people. You see. All right. So those are the kind of categories. Um, Now, with loving kindness, there is a mirror exercise that you might want to do. Okay, then this is loving kindness for ourselves. It's very easy for us to close our eyes and say that may I be happy, may I be peaceful, right? But the rubber hits the road when you stand in front of a mirror, look into your own eyes, and say, may you be happy. If you can do that, more power to you. God bless you. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to look at myself in the mirror and say, may I be happy. Because I had gone through so much in my life, and I didn't realize that I didn't feel that I deserved to be happy, you see. But I still kept doing this practice, and now I can stand in front of a mirror for freaking 2 3 hours and say, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. So that mirror practice is very, very powerful. I highly recommend that you do it. If you want to start your own loving kindness practice, it's this is a great practice. Go stand in front of the mirror. You don't even have to say anything audibly. Just think to yourself that, may you be happy. Or just say hi to yourself. Okay. All right. Any questions so far on everything I've said about loving kindness in the room? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. So we now go to the phrases of loving kindness. Okay. So, like I said, the first three phases are the cause and condition for loving kindness to arise. Okay. So, and also keep in mind, this is a highly customizable practice. What I'm giving you right now is something that I've created for myself, but you are free to modify it in any way you see fit. Okay. So for me, the first phrase, the first quality that is cause and condition for loving kindness to arouse, gratitude and thankfulness in combination. Okay. In my humble opinion, we we as Buddhist teachers and Buddhist practitioners, we don't talk enough about gratitude. We don't talk enough about thankfulness. Yes, we talk about loving kindness. Yes, that's beautiful. But I think the qualities of gratitude and thankfulness are also equally important. And they become even more important when you are trying to cultivate this condition, right? When you're trying to when you're trying to create a garden where loving kindness will flower naturally. Okay. So gratitude puts us in a great place to establish wonderful relationships with others. It's a wonderful way to see other people. Now, gratitude and thankfulness go together, but they are two sides of the same coin. Okay. Literal translation of gratitude is acknowledgement or knowing what has been done to us. You know, um, knowing it thing, right? It's kind of going out. So you have two directions, right? The 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 experience of gratitude is kind of going out, um, acknowledging that yes, I got benefited from some action that somebody else did for me. Now thankfulness is the emotional impact of being grateful, right? So, um, thankfulness is the inward direction. Thankfulness is the heartwarming, inspiring effect that we have in our heart when we receive inspiration, when we receive help from someone, right? So we receive help from someone, we are inspired, we are thankful, right? And then gratitude is the acknowledgement that, yes, thank you, thank you for coming into my life or whatever, right? So it's very important to be aware of both these directions, gratitude and thankfulness, and to keep them in motion, so to speak. So the most important uh, the most important aspect of gratitude and thankfulness is that it shifts our focus from the habitual judgments of good and bad to a more appreciative awareness of the present. When we are appreciative and aware of the present, we are in a very different frame of mind than the continuous reaction to, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is ugly, etc., right? So the phrase that arouses gratitude and thankfulness is this: may I always appreciate the goodness that supports me. Okay. May I always appreciate the goodness that supports me. So you say those phrases and gratitude gets aroused, because no matter where we are in life, we might have all kinds of challenging situations, but if you look into the past, you'll definitely uncover a lot of areas where people have been kind to us, people have helped us, right? People from whom we have received a lot of inspiration, right? So this is a shift. It's a beautiful shift. So that is the first cause and condition. The second is actually self-love, love for our own selves, right? I kind of talked about it earlier on. So self-love is innate to us. You know, we we actually take many actions during the day based out of this self-love, but we don't acknowledge it. We don't appreciate ourselves. So for example, let's say, we are bored, right? um, and then immediately we reach out to a cell phone, right? And we scroll and we reach out to a friend. Okay. Now, yes, we are bored, but the impulse that that has us reach out for the phone comes from self-love, because we don't want to be bored. you know Boredom is suffering. Because we have this innate quality of self-love, we don't want to be bored, we don't want to suffer, and so we reach out to something that will help eliminate this boredom. Now, this reaching out might not be a very skillful thing to do, right? Maybe, you might reach out for a bottle of alcohol, or you might reach out for cigarettes or whatever. That might not be very skillful, but the impulse that causes us to reach out to something, that comes out of self-love. So it's very important to acknowledge that we love ourselves and we want us to have a good time, right? When we are going out, when we are planning for an evening and we think that, oh, let's go for some dinner somewhere, right? Why do we do that? Because we love ourselves. We want us to have a good time. You see? So um, it's important to notice and acknowledge this innate sense of self-love. And also, remember, when we are angry about something that happened to the past, there is anger, but underneath the anger, there is self love and self compassion, because we don't want to be hurt. We are mad that we got hurt, you see, and that gives rise to anger. But if we look underneath the anger, we will appreciate that this is coming out of self love and self compassion. And many a times, and mind you, this is the genesis of addiction, right? We get addicted to something because we don't want to be in that of space where we are suffering, right? But if we look underneath, we will find self-love and self-compassion. And if we tend to that self-love and self-compassion directly, then perhaps there might be a chance that we won't have to look for something that will help us feel better. You see, just by being tending to ourselves will take us to a different place. All right. So the quality, the phrase that I've come up with for self-love is, may I notice the many moments of self-love throughout the day. Okay. May I notice the many moments of self-love throughout the day. All right. Okay. Now the third cause and condition, joy. Joy. Okay. Now Buddha was asked uh, what he was asked about his teaching. What does he teach? And Buddha said that he teaches just two things and two things only. One is suffering, and the second is how to uh, dissipate, how to end suffering. Okay, Buddha said that's what he taught: suffering and end of suffering. But the path that leads us from suffering to end of suffering is full of happiness and full of joy, because the less you suffer, the more joyful you will be, the more happy you will be. If you look at seven factors of enlightenment, right? Buddha said that there are seven factors of enlightenment. Yeah, it starts with mindfulness, starts with investigation, but then it also includes joy and happiness and tranquility. Because according to Buddha, if you're not happy, if you're not joyful, you will not get out of suffering. You see? So, joy is a very, very important quality to cultivate. And we don't have to consciously cultivate. Joy is within us, but to recognize joy in simple activities. You see? Now, the four Brahma Viharas, right? I said one is loving kindness, compassion, third one is sympathetic joy. Okay? So, when I talk about joy here as a cause and condition for loving kindness to arise, I'm talking about intrapersonal joy, the joy that is within us, that we experience within ourselves. Sympathetic joy as a one of the four divine abodes, that is interpersonal, that is joy that we experience in other people, and we revel in that joy. We wish for other people's joy to continue, right? So the joy that I'm talking about is intrapersonal. Sympathetic joy is interpersonal. And sympathetic joy is actually a manifestation of our sorry, sympathetic joy is a manifestation of intrapersonal joy. If you're not joyful within yourself, it'll be difficult for you to wish well for other people's joy. It's difficult for you to wish that other people's joy continue. You see? So keep that in mind. Okay, it's all good, but the joy that I'm talking about is joy that we experience within ourselves. And the phrase is, "May I be joyful." You know, simple, easy, powerful, and to the point. May I be joyful. All right, all right. So what I've done is, from my perspective, there are three beautiful qualities that form cause and condition for loving kindness to arise. The first one is gratitude and thankfulness. The second one is self-love. And the third one is joy. Okay. Now, this is for my specific small garden to cultivate loving kindness. Your garden might look very different. You might decide to add other qualities. And there are a number of other qualities that you can add, right? But the idea is that you tend to this cause and condition, and then you plant the seed of loving kindness. Chances are that the loving kindness will sprout. You'll pretty soon have uh, a garden of loving kindness in your heart. So that's the process that I'm following. Okay, so the first three phrases, cause and condition. Now we come to the actual classical phrases of loving kindness. So now we take into mind someone whom we love, a friend or a benefactor that we want to offer our loving kindness to, right? We want to shower them with love. Okay. So the fourth quality is happy and contented, right? So the phrase is, may you be happy and contented. As a practitioner, right, what you are doing is, happy refers to the sense of joy and well-being and uplifted mind, right? It's not about temporary pleasure, but it's more about a deeper, wholesome happiness. You are wishing for them to be happy and contented, right? And contentment means, it means acceptance. It means inner satisfaction and peace with whatever it is, right? So it's not about constantly craving or feeling restless. In fact, when we do our meditation practice, when we encounter distractions simply because we are not contented. If we are contented with everything as is, if we are happy with everything as is, then chances are that we might not get distracted so easily. Okay. So, um, the phrase that I use for my practice is, may you be happy and contented. All right. Now, the fifth one is one of peace. May you be peaceful. So this is what I'm going to shower that person with, right? May you be peaceful. And this is, it's a gentle hope for well-being. Our minds respond well to invitations. They don't respond well to commands. So when I say someone that may you be peaceful, it's a gentle wish, you know, may you be peaceful. You see, it refers not just to external conflict, but it reflects a deeper state of calm, mental balance, and freedom from agitation or suffering. Okay, may you be peaceful. And even if the person is not aware of the wish, the simple act of wishing them peace aligns our own mind with this universal goodwill. That at the end of the day, we all want to be happy, we all want to be peaceful, and we all want to be free from suffering. All right. And then the sixth phrase is, may you live with ease. So again, a gentle wish or intention directed towards another person. It is non-imposing, just a hope for well-being. May you live with ease. And when, as a practitioner, when we say this phrase for others, it actually helps reduce stress within ourselves. It fosters a very gentle, open-hearted attitude. All right. So, coming back, the first three phrases were cause and condition. The next three phrases are phrases that we actually offer to a loved one or benefactor. May you be happy and contented. May you be peaceful. And may you live with ease. All right. Now we come to the seventh and the final phrase. So this is where we bring in the importance of shared humanity. We are all interdependent. You know, Coming back to dependent origination, right? No one exists in isolation. We are all interconnected in many, many, many different ways, in ways in which we can't even imagine. Okay, so this phrase is, may I celebrate my own goodness and the goodness in you. Okay, or may I celebrate my own goodness and the goodness in others. Any variation. But what you're doing now is, you are you're coming to a celebration. You are celebrating the fact that there is so much goodness within us, right? That we can come together and we can create a beautiful world. So um, celebrate my own goodness, meaning this is, you are acknowledging your own self, that you are important enough, right? You are important enough to engage in this dynamic of celebrating our goodness together. All right. And goodness in others, it extends the awareness towards acknowledgement that all beings have the capacity for kindness, generosity, and virtue, right? So these are the 7 phrases that, in my opinion, help us cultivate loving kindness, because the first 3 phrases are the cause and condition. The second 3 phrases are the actual phrases of loving kindness. And the last one rounds everything up with this quality and this acknowledgement of our shared humanity. And finally, I have to say that you cannot overdo loving kindness. You cannot overdo metta. Do as much as you want. It's all good. It's a generosity of the heart, and it's a quality that has no limit. It is actually a limitless quality.